All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order.
It's a lie.
Mr. Isbell, will you please give us the invocation, sir?
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we just thank you, Lord, for another blessed day that you've given us. Father, we just pray right now for all of those in California, Lord. We continue the prayers for those in North Carolina and Tennessee. Father, that relief comes to each one of them. And Father, as we do the business of the county, Lord, may you guide our thoughts, guide our actions, guide our votes. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Recognition of the public. Mr. Kevin Baker.
Kevin Baker, 424 AB Wade Road. I'd like to address the issue of the election office budget issues of $52,000 in extra employee costs. In the previous meeting, the chairman made a rhetorical question about how much is this costing us. I would argue that $52,000 may be because we have to drive back and forth to the other side of Gallatin. Whereas if the election machines were right up here, so I question, how could we be off $52,000, 18% of a budget? You know, and we expect y'all to be our fiscal watchdogs. And there just needs to be some accountability here. Can't just go off, you know, hey, you know what? Let's move election storage over to Acapulco so I can go to the beach. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Laura Baker.
Laura Baker, 424 AB Wade Road. I don't get up here much, but I gotta say, since this is, and maybe I'm misunderstanding something, and if I am, I'm happy to hear about it at this committee meeting. And this is half you, half the highway department, but I was kind of surprised to see this item on here that $512,000 and change was ordered before you all approved $3 million. And I remember basically getting lectured by this department here about how they are a constitutional officer or whatever, and you shouldn't have control over this. Well, you all, commission, proposed that the purchase orders had to be issued through the finance department. Nobody wanted to put that condition. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, excuse me. I shouldn't grossly generalize like that. But the condition was not put on the highway department, and here they're spending money before you even allocated it. This needs to be fixed. That's not their money. It's our money, taxpayer money, and they shouldn't go off spending it until it's properly allocated. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Rick Duffer.
Rick Duffer, 229 Chipaway Drive here in Gallatin. I'm here to speak to you tonight on a request to have a loan forgiven by the Westmoreland Quarterback Club. 14 years I've been serving as principal at Westmoreland High School. At the end of this year, I will have served Sumner County as an educator for 33 years. And when I went to Westmoreland, inherited a very good situation, very good. One of the situations that we had was a field house that was approaching 50 years of age. It had mold and it had mildew. I went through budget meetings with the director of schools at that time, which was Dale Phillips, and I asked 5 consecutive years, can we do something about this? Can we please do something about this? Can we please do something about this? And the same answer came, and I respect that answer. He said, we are not in a position to start building athletic facilities. And I said, do you have any suggestions? He said, we're going to start providing you with some capital money. And he said, if you'll save that capital money, you can generate $200,000 or so. We needed almost $1 million to build this facility. When we realized that we could take what the county was providing in capital to the tune of about $200,000, use that money along with money that was raised, we were able to come up with $600,000. And our thought was to continue to save money until we had enough money to pay for this thing. But what we realized is that inflation was growing faster than our saving account. So we took it upon ourselves to borrow money. Now, the school system can't borrow money. They can't use anything as collateral. So 10 people in our community joined with the quarterback club and said, we'll sign a note. It was for $300,000 and some change. They each went up and said, I'll be responsible for 1/10 or 10% of this. Some of the people, and I didn't ask them to do this, and I wish they wouldn't have done it, but they did it. They did a home equity line of credit on their house to help pay for this. Had there been another way to pay for this field house, by all means, I would have taken that route. But as the principal of the school advocating for my students, my community, and my parents, we went forward and we built this field house. We have been paying on this, and it cuts into the budget tremendously. It has come to my attention that there's some money left from the sale of the hospital, and it's used from time to time in manners such as this. I realize that some of you have made, not excuses, but you've given reasons for not supporting this. You don't want to get on a slippery slope, and you don't want to start paying off debt for school support organizations. I totally get that. If money were available prior to building this, we would have not taken this route. I'm here respectfully asking for your help. Not asking for a tax increase on the people in Sumner County, but to take money that we have and help us pay off this debt. The people, they've secured the note. It's unsecured at the bank, so it's a higher interest rate. There's no collateral for it other than individual people. It's going to take us a while to pay this off if we don't get some help, and I would be remiss in my duties as principal if I didn't come here and make you aware of these things. I realize we're a very fortunate county, and Westmoreland, they're very fortunate to be in this county. We're giving money out to schools, to students, and to athletic organizations, and I think we should. I think that's a great investment in our students. I respectfully ask if there's a way to use the money that is available through the sale of the hospital, through that fund, to help pay this debt. I request that of you. And I'll answer any questions that you may have, or I'll sit down and I'll be silent.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes. I will be abstaining from this because I was not here.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention, that's myself.
And another abstention.
Oh, two abstentions.
I'll make that 3.
Oh, okay, so 3 abstentions. We're here to
We
like,
don't have enough.
Seems like somebody's got to, you
And
can
approve
approve,
in form.
you can approve in form.
yeah, I'll approve in form. There we go. So I'll be the guy. All right. I have no report other than to note that if you look to item 6A2 under new business, there is a budget. So this is budget amendment number 3 for the BOE. You should have a handout from Ms. Allison. That we'll enter that into the record. Not on the record, but this is the handout. The separate handout is the right document to reference here. And please update our online records to reflect that. Other than that, Mr. Mayor.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wine.
Page 168 has the usual, it's the statement, just a memo telling that the financial statements are available. They will be available on the 27th because of the timing of the month, and it's like the same Monday as the county commission. The next item is the revenue monitoring, and it's actually this sheet here, and it contains 3 pages, and it was passed out on your desk. The first one just shows how the budget was broken down between the different funds or how it was dispersed. The second one, if you go to the far right, shows what, if we reprojected the revenues today, what we believe they would bring in. There's really no huge concerns. There's a few to note. Right now, your hotel motel tax is about 90% of budget and about 89% of prior year. Not a huge revenue source, but it is below budget, and it's unexpectedly below budget. The only other one to really note is your adequate facilities tax. It's about 86% of budget and about 63% of prior year. The rest of your revenues are above budget, and we expect in total to actually have a revenue surplus this year unless something changes. One item to note on your top one, we're showing 101.18% of current property tax. That accounts for what we reasonably believe on the appeals will be settled negatively, not the entire amount, because it would show us negative. As we talked about last month, if you look on the following page, which is the property taxes summary assessment, they're showing a $3.9 million of appeals. They are still working on coming up with the actual dollar value of the amount appealed. That's the total taxes off the appeal portion. So I've came up with what I believe is a reasonable estimate, but no guarantee. Does anybody have any questions on the revenues?
I have a question. So what do you see affecting the adequate facilities tax?
A lot of times, the adequate facilities tax it has a far lead time, so a lot of that can be timing, and it does fluctuate way up and down. So I would look at more on a year or even a 2-year basis. Right now, we've all heard rumors of several things under construction, but there's several things under construction right now. But you got to think those adequate facilities tax was from quite a bit earlier. So unless the entire year was significantly below that, and your next year started the same direction, I wouldn't be concerned at this point.
Do they pay adequate facility tax when they apply to build or when they complete their build?
When they
sell?
do the building permit
When they do the
so
permit.
before they start construction. In other words, they pull their building permits, and then they gotta come from the cities down to Marshall's office and get the adequate facilities tax, and then they get it at the same time when they do the permits in the county.
Thank you.
I lost my spot here. The next one is the transfers. The first one is a transfer for a payout for $868. The same thing as item B.
I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
Second.
I didn't make the motion.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, A and B.
Page 172 is to correct object codes. The state provides the chart of accounts by statute, and it doesn't always come in timely. So when we made the budget, we used the item, the line item that we've always used. They've actually came up with a new item for the educational incentives. So it's basically just a bookkeeping transfer for 172 through 173. Item 2 under C on page 174 is just postage to do some mailing. There was any mailing money there. And then 175 is several transfers for the sheriff's department, but most of it's within the TOSHA grant or are from for regular part-time, for instance, to court officers, or from regular travel to SRO because we're just tracking items.
Do you need a motion on item C?
Yes, I was just
Okay.
going to see if we can go through all of
Motion
them.
approve C, D, and E.
Okay.
Second. Any discussion? All approve? Aye.
And then
Any
the last
opposed?
one we'll talk about is item F, and I've passed it out. At this point, my understanding is, and I think it's been through, I believe, Gen Ops at this point, is to actually not go any further with the TDEC grant. And I believe the time for transfers or to do anything with this grant's passed at this point. We have received $10,400.22, and I would ask for a vote, and actually, if you can, for the second, actually pass on the second, to actually send this on to county commission to authorize to basically give back the grant and reimburse TDEC for their $10,000 at this point.
Okay.
Motion to approve that.
With
Waive.
Waive.
With
All right.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
And then the other item on mine is the interbudgetaries, page 178, 179, and I went those and I did not see anything that really flagged me, but if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer what I can about them.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, Mr. Long, anything further?
Not until old or new business.
Got it. Yeah, we're about to have a good bit of discussion on the budget. So FY 2026 budget, we have a proposed calendar on, it says 181, but I don't know that, no. Yeah, there it is. It's actually on, I think, page 180. Do we need to approve this? Do we need to approve the calendar, or are there any issues with this?
Right now, you've tentatively approved it. Some of these days are not on the first Monday. Right now, what I would recommend is for the committee to study it and see if they have some alternative days, and we can start shifting it around and see what it looks like. There's two things that you could do if you start shifting days. One is the final date I'm showing there is June 23rd, and the commission's actually, that's the fourth Monday. The commission's actually the third Monday. June 30th is actually the fifth Monday if you want to make a June. So it actually would give you some leeway to request the commission to move to the fifth Monday. If you start looking through here, this is based on if you have the first and second presentation to budget and the commission, and to meet for the 10-day publication requirements.
So, Mr. Long, I remember we spoke about this, and I think we have the chairman of the commission here. I think what we would need to do here, and I'm happy to send an email if it's necessary, just so we have it in writing. I think what I would request is to bump the full commission to the fifth Monday in June, if that is doable, in order to allow us to get both readings through.
I don't see any problem with that.
Okay. All right.
Can you put that?
I'll put it in an email.
Second item is the school's budget. If you look, and this is the thing we've ran into, according to our private act, the school has a deadline on June 30th. You go to the general law, a private act stands as long as the commission and the school board agree to it. Otherwise, it becomes May 1st. The problem you run into if we follow the June 1st deadline with the schools receiving the budget, that same statute also provides that June 1, that the budget committees to vote June 1 or before on that same budget. So my thought process, Ryan, you may want to contact the schools, and if, because of this second June 1st deadline, you may want to discuss the possibility of leaving the deadline under the general law May 1st.
I would highly recommend that if it's for what it's worth.
And the only reason I say that, if you look into that same statute, it says on or before June 1, you'll vote on it. And this statute came after our private act, so that's why some of these dates butt up against each other.
Okay.
The statute basically says
So
that you follow this timeline unless you have a private act and it's agreed to by the Board of Education and the Commission.
So, well, I'm just trying to back up the timeline here. So, June 1,
You got to vote on it.
we have to
June
vote.
Or before.
So, when do we need, so let's back that off. When do we need to have the BOE?
If you don't have a separate agreement, then under that statute, 59402, it gives you a date of May 1st. And that's something you may want to discuss with the schools if May 1st is doable, or if you get an agreement for a later date, such as May 15th.
So on this note, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it, I know you and I have spoken about it, we are planning this year, because I know there was some discussion last year.
That's the next item being said.
Yeah, so I'm happy to have a discussion with the schools director here on this. I think these two things work in tandem, right? Because the idea is that we're going to basically give them a little more guidance than we gave early on last time, so it should be a little bit faster.
Based on the statutes, and I've talked to Eric, I think you should to make sure you're compliant with that statute. And we'll go through that statute next, but if you read that statute per letter, yeah, I think you need to basically give them more guidance.
So here's what I'll do I don't know that we need a vote on this for the 5-1, right?
I think recommended right now would be probably for the budget chair to contact the
Well, that's what I'm going to
to
do.
see if it's a workable situation for him, because really you just need it early enough before June 1st to allow you guys to vote on it. And
I mean, if I could back it up mid-April, I could, but they will probably.
Well, the general law provides, if
Yeah,
you don't get an agreement May 1.
Okay. All right,
And
so-
they've got and to be fair, they've got a very large budget.
I know.
and Several statutorily required steps they've got to provide too, so.
Okay, I mean, I don't know that we need to take any action on it, but I've got the ask here, and I'll speak with the schools director.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's move on to the next one, and I'll let you handle this, but I know you and I have talked about it, but
If
this
you-
is probably the most, if everybody could just pay very close attention to this next item, I'm gonna give a little bit of background, right? So, we got into, a bit of a back and forth with the schools last year because of a change in assumptions on how much of the previous year's additional revenues the schools believed they could capture. In my opinion, individually, and the opinion later of the commission, it was, or at least this committee, the schools would basically be able to capture, in retrospect, we were budgeting the next forward year, so the 2024-2025 fiscal year, to account for additional revenues. Some of the additional revenues, it was about $7.5 million that we had been able to capture through sales tax. The schools, the way they had interpreted this is that they would go back and capture that, and then they would get an additional $7.5 million. And so this caused a lot of back and forth, right? I mean, there was this $7.5 million gap. So, and look, I was bashing people earlier for not taking responsibility. My fault, right? Like my fault. I'll take responsibility for it. So in order to fix this year, what we're going to do is give a more explicit forward-facing budget to the schools prior to their budgeting process. So Mr. Long, I think I explained that in the high level, and I'll let you get into details.
If you look on page 182, and this is two things, and that's what me and Eric were talking about. One, you need to make sure you're following your statutory duty. And if you look on page 182, if you look at the first heading, it says county legislative bodies, powers and duties. If you go down to item D, it specifically says one of the duties of the county commission is to make revenue estimates and determine the level of revenue necessary to establish a budget for the operations of the schools that is at least equal to the minimum budget required to comply with local match, maintenance of efforts, which is the prior year, and the local match under TISA, which you had CTAS down here providing it to us, which you're significantly above at this point. I think right now we know what MOE is because it's last year. The only thing you would really need to confirm, and we can ask the director of schools if he's got anything, what the match is in TISA, the new formula. Last year you were far above it. At that point, but what it says, it's your duty to provide these revenues. If you go on to the next statute that works with that, it's 49.2203. And if you look on page number 188, it comes in, and this is actually the duties and powers of basically the school board and the director of schools. This particular statute says it will require the director of schools and the chairman of the board of education to prepare a budget on the forms furnished by, and it's not the important part, comes down the second sentence, the director of schools and the chairman of the local board of education shall provide a budget according to revenue estimates and revenue determination made by the county legislative body under the previous statute. So to make sure you're meeting your statutory requirement and to prevent any mix-ups, I would recommend that in the month of February, we come back with revenue estimates, and in February or March,
Yes.
send it to the county commission to do a resolution and tell the schools what the
Yes.
revenue is as early as possible. The two things you have, February is more timely, March will be more accurate. So you got to decide, do you want more accuracy? Because you can't have both. But we get more accuracy the more time we've got as far as data from this year.
I mean, what's the difference? I mean, in both percent and
There's no way to
dollars.
tell, but we'll just have more information, and there'll be more. For instance, down in the assessor's office, I have more information on the current year.
I mean, we've got to be able to have
We can do a while.
directionally.
I think probably your best thing is we try to do.
I would like to give
guess
them
for
more.
February.
I would like to give them more time
I'd
if
like
we
to give
could.
them more time.
I say we do the best estimate in February, and then in March just reevaluate, and if it goes.
So about to say, could you not go back, and nothing's set at that point, you could just go back and say, hey.
But it's clearest if you just give them one estimate, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be the most clear, but the same thing is we can give them reasonable conservative estimates. So we do a reasonable conservative estimate, it comes in more. I've not seen many people complain about receiving more money.
Yeah, I would like to.
I'm sure somebody somewhere does, but we usually don't
And
see
you're still
those.
dealing with that May 1.
Right, and it's still, and if you don't approve the additional date, you're still with May 1, that'll give them February to the May to kind of work that things out.
Mr. Hyde.
Since when did we come about thinking, I mean, where did this thinking come from that we could recapture revenue later in the year or get another estimate?
You know, what I'm saying is if you estimate your revenue, say, February, we have the tax rolls, but the assessor's office is still picking up more taxes and more information. So generally, the earlier you project your revenue, the more conservative you're going to want to be because you have more unknowns.
But in
You'll have
no
another
way
month.
it has to do with, we project X million amount of dollars, we get $12 million more, and they can
No,
get.
No.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
No.
we come in and we do a really conservative estimate, and there's
Sticking strictly to estimates.
right, and you come in and we come in and say, hey, based on what we projected in February, things look much better than we were anticipating. you could potentially increase it. But the thing is, I say be super conservative because you don't want to go back and be trying to decrease
I don't
it.
think, and I'm speaking as a former educator and director of schools who presented a balanced budget year after year after year based upon one estimated amount of revenue given to me. I would have loved to have had you as a finance director at that time. If I could get 2 or 3 estimates going upward.
Well, they're not necessarily going upward. The thing is, the lower you project the revenue, the higher the likelihood of meeting your projections. So the thing is, there's somewhat statistical ways to tell how close you're going to be. The only thing I'm saying is we will have more data in March than in February, but in February it'll be more timely. But either way, it'll be conservative estimates because that's what we always run on.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what got us into a bit of a pickle last time.
But me speaking from somebody that works on budgets, I would prefer to have the conservative estimates earlier.
Mr. Wright, did you have anything further? Mr. Becker?
Most of these are
What would the-
shells, they're not maybes.
What would the
Shares.
process be if we give them a number in February, and then as we get closer to,
We just updated.
May or whatever, we just tell them, hey, you've got, X amount of dollars more than what we told you in February.
Right,
and they can
that's
just use
the
it.
idea.
Now, the thing is, look at the statute, and that's what Eric pointed out. The statute says shall and says legislative, so.
Do we need to approve this?
I
I think what we would do is we would approve the first estimate, that when we
Right.
send it.
Yeah.
So you're gonna prepare an
I'm gonna
estimate,
prepare a total.
and then for next month,
Estimates
and then
countywide.
we'll approve to send it.
So-
We did this, so we did this for, I mean, we did it for the schools as well, but we didn't do it this way. When we provided, last year and the year before, what we did was provide guidance, but we didn't provide, I don't know that we provided a hard revenue estimate to the schools last year. And in fact, they called us on it, and I think they were right to call us on it at one point. So this year, we're gonna make sure to do it.
I think there was some confusion on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is. What matters is, that we fix it going forward. So we're gonna give them a very good estimate, a very good conservative estimate in February. We'll approve it. You'll prepare it this month. We'll approve it, and then we'll do an update in March. Mr. Plant?
Mr. Chairman, the reason it's more accurate is we've just got one more month of
actuals to look at.
And-
That's
and-
it.
And the assessor's office has another month for pickups and stuff
So,
that changes
yeah.
down there.
That's it.
And that's
You have
significant.
another month of actuals and expenses.
Okay,
And you
that's
got
what I thought.
another
but I
month of
wanted-
sales
That's
tax,
it.
adequate facility, so,
It's still an estimate, but
It's closer to the end
You
of
got
the
it.
month.
and I like more data,
Absolutely.
more data's better, but timeliness has a lot to be said.
I don't know that we need to take any more action on
We'll
this
bring
one.
you back, or I'll bring you back an estimate in the month of February to start looking at.
Okay, I don't know that we have yet an item on this City of Gallatin.
I think this month we just sent some of the stuff over on the utilities, and we're still working on the water, and I think the mayor's in contact with them. I don't think nothing's happened at this point.
Have we met our obligations here? We still haven't. Do we have a timeline on when that'll be? We don't have,
It's going
We
out
don't
for
have a
bid,
defined timeline, we're still working, I believe,
for bid.
Dustin was still working on the contracting and all of that.
They're working on the bid, and then they sent the interlocal agreement to the utilities this past week.
Are we talking about the storm drain,
The storm
Yes.
drain and the electrical.
the electric?
are you guys tracking that in drain
Yeah,
ops?
finance has a new employee who's
Yeah.
going to be tracking that with Gantt charts and those kinds of things.
All right.
Right now, we're just trying to
So
get all
we'll,
this stuff.
we'll
off the
just
track
leave,
and
we'll,
get there.
I just hate seeing something on there this long, but
How
it
long
needs to
is
stay.
I mean, it seems like forever.
It has been quite.
Didn't we
Storm
do
drain?
the mutual agreement?
It was
like
here
a
before
year
you-
ago?
It was, more than that. The problem is that.
You just sent it over?
I just started asking about if it had been sent over, and we determined it hadn't been, so I had, I was gonna say Chris, but, Scott send it over to the utility district. My understanding, they didn't have a copy of it, so they're looking at it right now.
Of the storm drain?
No,
Oh,
the electrical. No, the storm drain's going out for bid, but Gallatin's already working. We were hoping to bid
Yeah.
it together, but when we received the projects, it's already past that.
Well, the storm drain was plan checked back in August.
Right. So we're right now, I think it's to the point where, and I'll ask tomorrow where we're at on the bid process, and then the interlocal agreement, my understanding is over at the utility district or at the electrical.
Mr. Chairman, irregardless of all of that, what the update on the 907,000, say $1 million? Where is that?
So the reason so there's a triggering event. So this is not slightly shy of $1 million that the city of Gallatin has committed itself to for a cost share for the efforts around the garage. So there are several triggering events that the county had to meet in order for us to collect on it. And one of those, we're really talking about two of them. One was a requirement to run electrical, I believe, underneath the road. And the second one was there were more than this. The second one was a storm drain in order to handle some of the runoff that changed because of the construction of the parking garage itself. We have not yet met that storm drain requirement, and so the city of Gallatin is hanging on to that until we complete it. That's why I asked about the status of the storm drain. Does that make sense, Mr. Hyde?
Yeah, it makes sense, but I'm not sure I agree with it. You know, when you enter a partnership in anything, it should be an equal partnership. And I don't think this entire venture has been an equal one with the city of Gallatin.
This is the first I've heard of the storm drain being a trigger for that money to be contributed on the parking structure. Is that actually in a document?
I don't think so, but I think that's what the mayor was told.
Is this?
You know, I've mentioned it, that's basically what the mayor said.
I think.
Is it in a
I don't think
document?
there's anything documented, no.
I mean,
I'd like to make a motion that I know no one would appreciate going, but I'd like to see the budget chair, the general operations chair, the finance director, and the mayor go to the city council and present the entire picture problem of what exists here, and get on the same page. What are you expecting? What are we expecting? I know what we're expecting. We're expecting our $1 million. What are they expecting? But we need to go and eyeball them and get them to tell us exactly what the status of this is. And I'm going to put that in the form of a motion.
I'll
Go
second
to the
that.
city council meeting.
Mr. Warren, I thought you were about to make a comment on that.
No, I'm saying we're moving forward that way. So I'm saying we're getting ready to bid it, and we sent them a local agreement this point. So that's my understanding what they're expecting, and I think they've told the mayor that. But
Well, they can tell us anything they want to, but I may not agree with it.
correct.
So, I mean, I'm fine to do this, just as a comment, but I mean, I guess my caveat question is, I don't like to pull a card unless I, have a stick behind it. What could we do to compel? If,
We could close the garage to judicial court patrons only and ticket people who park in there. I mean, if this was a partnership, now keep in mind, with the city and the county. Now, we've tried to live up to our end of the bargain, but I'm prepared to, carry the stick if we have to.
I think you relied on receiving these monies. I think that'd be more of an Eric question. I think you could take action.
Mr. Chairman,
Am I looking at it
this
right?
entire project has been based on hearsay and handshakes with absolutely zero. What they call the spider pole that's behind it. We were apparently supposed to pay for something down by the courthouse that was to go underground, and then Gallatin Electric said, well, we'll go ahead and pay for that if you guys do for that. That was news to us. The storm drain, we could not get the storm drain in prior to the water that they're putting in right now. And they haven't even started. They've only saw cut that street and done exploratory analysis. if for no other reason to get it on paper, what both parties expect to receive and what both parties expect to do. This makes total sense.
I actually would, so I'm gonna make an amendment to this motion, which is to have our did I skip over you?
No.
I was gonna say to have our county attorney draw up a proposal on paper for exactly that, so that we don't just go and.
I have no idea what the original inception was.
Well, we don't necessarily, I mean, we
So
can.
you want me to go meet the mayor?
No. But what we can.
No, I mean, if
Technically,
that's
Matt,
what
you're
you're
not an
asking.
amendment, because he can't make the motion. You would make the motion or whatever you want.
Well, he's
not on this committee.
well, that's
Probably a lot
true.
of this stuff
I
is
think,
written.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, since I was the maker of the motion, we know what we want. I want $1 million. The question is, what is it? What is the reason you're not giving us $1 million? And that, they should be the one writing up something to us as this is what we need to happen before you get the $1 million. I may or may not agree with it, but I don't think we should go in there with bended knee. We should go in there and ask for the $1 million, and if you can't give it to us, for what reason? And let them tell us what the reason is.
Well, so I'm not sure that I'm not sure you're actually able to make a motion.
Yeah, I just looked it up.
Can't-
Ex officio members can make.
Okay, so
but
we
they
have a
can't-
good, but can't.
No, provided they have a right to, but it's a no, he can't.
Okay, well, I mean, look, just out of respect for that, then I'll make the motion that we do this.
And I second.
All right,
So what exactly is the motion?
so my understanding, make sure I have it right, Mr. Hyde, is that the motion is, your original motion would be for myself, and Mr. Klein.
Actually, Commissioner Mansfield is the chairman of the general
And
office.
Commissioner Mansfield, to go to,
Finance group.
and the finance director, all go, and the mayor.
And the mayor.
Okay, so all four to go to the city council, but here's the thing, can we compel them
I go all the
to,
time there.
so I've just got another question,
Comment.
can we ask them to, I mean, if they don't have it on their agenda,
Can you request it on the agenda?
and we can ask them to put it on the agenda.
We just carry pitchforks.
Can I?
Go ahead, Ms. Boyd.
So, I love the idea of presenting to the council there, but before that, can we take a less public demanding step and just have a meeting? Because it may be something as simple as they just need to be asked why you're not paying. And
Well, I've already done this.
You've done this.
I've done
and they-
this,
And they just no answer.
No, the answer is, we don't wanna pay until this storm drain gets fixed. That's the answer.
Well,
That's news.
So,
But that's not
I've
been
said
in
that at
writing.
this table before, so it's not new. But it is, I mean, that's what the mayor said. So where we go from there, to entertain Mr. Hyde's
Mr. Becker and then
thoughts.
Mr. Klein. Mr. Becker.
Well, I'm sorry about the storm damage, what is this?
It's a storm drain.
Like, so, I don't know the background of that.
So
So are we gonna pay for that?
The
Is it
background is that because the change to the topography of the street corner where the garage is on, it has caused the water flow to change, and so the water flow is now running over a road.
Okay, so the county's going to pay for that?
Yes.
Okay, and then what I just heard is, if I understand what I just heard, is the city's gonna pay us the $907,000
Once it's
as
complete.
soon as we pay.
But again, well, yes, but I mean, to be fair, this has not been mentioned outside of a phone call between myself and the Gallatin mayor and the phone call between our county mayor. And so, I mean, there is an argument here that, like, this was Mr. Klein's point earlier, these are just kind of calls. I don't technically have any authority.
Get that and be done with it. Seems pretty easy.
Was never a contingency.
Well,
So,
yeah, but here's,
if
I
we're
mean,
gonna pay for it, let's do it.
well, so we've already appropriated the funding for it. It's underway.
It's just, it's under engineering and all of the hoops that you have. to
It's underway.
So, so the city just, they wanna wait for it to be complete until they pay us
Yeah.
$107,000, okay. So whose word am I taking from that? Is that?
But it was never a contingency.
So
So
the
it sounds like the mayor in a face-to-face or a telephone call or something has said they'll do that.
Yes.
But it sounds to me that if we can have that in writing, then.
I mean, and that is totally fine. You know, I can request it in writing, or we can go to the, I think that's the point of this motion, is to get this,
Yeah,
is to
me-
make
to
a-
me, if they don't, if the attorney can write up a MOU simple,
well, but.
and they agree to it, then there's no reason to go to.
Well, I mean, so there's two things going on here, just to be clear, right? I mean, one, I don't know that, and this is Mr. Hyde's point, I don't know that this body ever accepted that as a contingency, nor that is that written down anywhere, right? So like, it's one of these, well, we're just not gonna do it until this is done, and, well, now, you know, in 3 months, that's complete, and now they want something else to be done. So there's an argument here that this contingency has no force and effect at all. And I think this is Mr. Hyde's point.
It sounds like to me that as a county governing body here, we do a very horrible job of creating MOUs or whatever, all these agreements. I mean, the whole 500,000 from the Brown, like it seems like we're just really horrible at that line of
Contracts.
work. Anyway, just want to make that comment, but I think we're spending way too much time on this.
Mr. Klein?
I just want to correct a couple of things. I don't mean to go against what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, but what happened was that parking structure was originally supposed to be down below, and it got moved up to the corner it's at right now, and they forgot to design a storm drain. Because all parking structures and parking lots have to have the first inch of rainwater every time it rains filtered through a filter bank. That is underground, and that has to go into a storm drain system. So we discovered this about a year ago, maybe a little longer than a year ago. I think it was December, maybe November. And the engineer quickly designed it, and we got a price from Turner, and it was gonna be about $600,000. We called up 3 different companies and got it down to around $125,000. And so they got the plans into plan check at the city of Gallatin around May, and they were finished around August. And so we couldn't have gotten this started before the water line was put in anyway. But the $908,000 is Gallatin's agreed upon contribution for the parking structure. The parking structure is finished and in use now. I don't know why we were allowed to get a certificate of occupancy without the storm drain, but we did. So the two have nothing to do with each other.
I understand.
And so we need to nail this down, and I think what the chairman is saying is absolutely true. And what you're saying is absolutely true. We never nail any of this stuff down, and we need to nail it down now.
Is the storm drain fixed, or is it still a problem?
It's still, the storm drain is not complete.
But,
Because of that water line.
but the parking structure is in use.
Yeah, I get you.
Mr. Hyde?
We know when that meeting was.
Huh?
It was an emergency commission meeting. Do you remember what it was?
Well, 1 second, we're out of, Mr. Hyde?
The entire management of this courthouse has been a monument to incompetency. It really has. And it's time for us to stop just sitting around talking about it. We are owed $1 million, and the only way you're going to find the answer to all of these questions that are brought up is to go there and say, what do you want? We want $1 million, what do you want? When are we getting our $1 million? That's the only way, just get a flat out answer there on the spot.
Ms. Boyd?
So I don't want to stoke this conversation and take it too far off, but in a moment, we're going to get to the shared costs of the assessor's office, which Gallatin also has not paid us and owes us. Which is, it's not the sewer line, but it's more money that Gallatin owes us and has not paid us.
For years.
So, well, let's
2, 3,
let's
4,
not go down
5,
that. Let's-
700,000.
We're
I'm
gonna,
just saying, there's
we're gonna get to
a
that.
lot of history here
We
coming.
we can get to that one. Here's the thing, we can take a vote on this if we want. I'm happy to just go, but if we want to take a vote on it, all in favor of trying to get into the next, city council meeting with the caveat that they don't put it on the agenda, what force can we do to
There is
compel them?
something, at the end of, I don't know if it's their work session or their regular meeting, that I believe at the end, they have a section that anyone can speak off topic.
Well, I will do my best to get on the agenda so that we're not waiting to the end and then we can all go. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Can I
opposed?
make one comment? I don't want wasted time in this. So you go and you do this in front of the meeting, they're not gonna be able to ask you questions, they're not gonna be able to give you answers, and all you did is front load another meeting. So wouldn't the easiest thing to be is to try to have a sit down with the mayor, with the parties involved, and get something worked out, at least you know your answer, and then if you decide you wanna cut loose with an official legal demand letter and go from there, we can.
We've already taken a vote on this, but
Yeah, we've
Mr.
already
Hyde.
taken a vote, and it's the right vote. My friend, Mr. Sedley, has given the lawyer's response, which is typical. But we've talked to the mayor, we've talked to other people, and I'm tired of talking.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Correct, item number C, correction to payback, payroll holdback issue. Mr. Long, go
We
ahead.
just need to, that's still with financial management, just so we can add it back to old business.
All right, we'll leave that one. Request to purchase AEDs. This one was approved by Gen Ops. I'd entertain a motion to approve.
That one right now, we're actually buying AEDs with opioid money, a certain amount, and that's what we're talking about right now. That probably just needs to be sent back to the opioid committee and let them look and see how many we're buying versus the needs.
Is there,
Can we just strike this?
before we do this, I don't want to be tying up purchasing of stuff that's actually needed in
No,
committees. Is there any kind of critical shortage that we're
No, right
missing
now,
here?
and that's why I've got my emails. Dustin's the one, is their employee that works with the opioid committee. And I think he's actually sent an email to me and Mr. Mansfield. Right now, they've bought several of these AEDs with the opioid funds, and they're looking at FY25 to see how much they can buy with opioid
Okay.
funds. So, not sure if we want to go down the tribal or the opioid. There's like two sets of funds, and it was a
Alright.
question. It was a request from Gen Ops.
All right, Ms. Boyd.
Um,
Right, we entertain a motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Boyd. Go ahead, Ms. Boyd.
So with the tribal funds, I'd like this to get shorter. My understanding, and I just want to ask you, with the tribal funds, we could use them on anything,
As long as you're following certain rules, yes.
certain rules. Is there something we could spend them on just so that some operational cost?
You spend it on a lot of stuff, but right now, I think.
I mean, if we don't spend them on this, I just would like to see.
And there's no time limit on it either, so.
There's no
So
time.
my point being is right now, before we buy the AEDs, it may be send it back to opioid committee and discuss how much they're gonna spend on AEDs, and then we can send that number back to Gen Ops and see if we do need the additional AEDs from the tribal. Because right now, we need to make sure we're not double.
Motion to do exactly that,
So-
to send back to, and I'm just gonna make.
Send it to opioid.
To send it back to opioid make a recommendation to Gen Ops approve the recommendation that
And
comes.
then the two amounts
That's
come
my-
back together.
that's
and
my
fund
motion.
them.
We will either approve it in opioids on Thursday night or not approve it. We won't be
That's-
sending it, or we'll either up it or down it.
All right, that's my motion.
Of how much for the 25-year? Okay. And then we can, you send it back to Gen Ops.
I don't
for 25.
understand the motion.
So the motion is, this is not, so we're not going to do, the motion is that we're not going to approve the tribal funds tonight. What we're going to do is kick this back for the opioid, to allow the opioid subcommittee, to determine whether or not they can and will purchase these AEDs using opioid abatement funds. Then, given condition on that, the Gen Ops will reconsider it and approve post what the opioid committee
And
wants to
then
do.
it would
Then it
come
will come
back.
right back here. That's my motion.
I second that.
All right, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, the item E, grant accountant.
That was
Go
one
ahead.
right now, and they've talked about Title VI during, I believe, legislative.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we're still evaluating too. So right now, I prefer to drop this item completely off the agenda and discuss it during next year's budget.
That's fine, I'd like to do that. Let's do that. Without objection, we can drop this one. Okay, good. We will move this, and it will be struck until budget. Millersville Library, $6,469 from the general fund, for changing employee to health and dental coverage.
Can you explain it?
Yeah.
They originally asked for $87.19. They found about $2,000.
Did you have a motion?
You have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second, go ahead. Well, go ahead and explain it.
They found about $2,000 in the regular budget. Anytime there's a change in coverage, if a smaller department can't find the funds, generally the commission covers it because they don't want to create a situation where you're trying to discriminate against people with family coverage to save funds. So
right.
it's for a change of coverage.
I just have a quick question as far as where we're funding it out of. Does this increase the MOE at the library?
Yes, it would. It's going to increase, but
Can we pay for it from anywhere else?
they transferred $2,000. They're saying they stripped the budget pretty tight.
There's nothing.
She says she stripped it tight. I mean, we're still pretty early in their year, so
We're-
you want one out?
I might have money in my part-time payroll line, closer to the end of the year I'll know, but I don't have anything left in it already.
We could just put it under old business, and then, the thing is, we're not gonna not pay their insurance, so then, and that's what their originally concern was, we do not fail to pay insurance premiums, we never have done
So
that.
is
So we'll
there-
continue to
I
pay
wanna
the
them, I
premiums.
just wanna,
So we can put it under, it may be a good thing to put it under old business and give her a couple months.
So we have a
to look
motion,
at
we
it.
need to do something with the motion. So we have a motion and a second.
I just withdraw my second.
All right, withdraw a second. All right, so we can, is there any, I just want to make sure, is there any scenario where individuals at the library lose their
No.
insurance?
We
Okay,
will pay that
then we
one
can leave that.
negative, we've never.
All right, got
paid
it.
anybody's insurance coverage.
Can-
All right.
Can we note on the old business that we're gonna wait until May?
You'll just note
Yeah,
for me.
that's fine.
That way we don't have to talk
Yep,
about it.
yep.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, election office.
And I put the email trail in here. I've had several emails from Miss Ashley. Currently, it was to do with the payment of advertisement that was required. She's made transfers that did cover that, but they're still, and it's included, but she's made some transfers in there on 214. There is several over line items, and there's some discussion about the cuts in her budget from the committee, the commission, but
We
went
didn't cut
down
anything.
through her particular items, and for instance, I believe it was around $277,000 some odd dollars, verify the exact amount, 'cause it's attached here, that was, originally, it was $277,219 originally requested for election workers. The budget committee actually approved $280,000, and the actual cost is $332. So I don't think any action from the budget committee caused that particular shortfall, and that's the large one in here. The rest of the items that was adjusted.
So wait. So they asked for 277.
Yeah, that's on the yellow sheet there.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. And we approved 280.
After they made a second presentation.
We approved 280, and
Right.
then we ended up with 300,
Right.
an expenditure of, so an overage of 35,000.
So it was not $52,000 over. It was 332,000 versus 280 is 52,721 short.
Does she have this in her,
I mean, that's right now, there's line items that are positive, there's some in part-time.
how much, I'm looking here.
It's on page 214 and 15, and I have a sheet here because there was some discussion of what the budget committee did decrease during.
We didn't decrease anything. What we did is we did not, just like we do with any budget,
Right.
we didn't give everything that was requested. So
Right, right.
when people say decrease, we did not decrease their budget. So
But she was saying it was haphazardly not funded, but I'm looking, and the items we cut generally had notes on them. They were due with convenience,
Yeah.
vote centers, or the Union Street, and there's like a whole list of cuts for that.
Mr. Klein.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to know from Financial Director how deep into this shortfall he's got. I mean, anybody can come up, give you a budget. You increase the budget, and then they come back and they say we're $52,000 short. I think we have reason to really scrutinize some of this stuff. And I'm just wondering from the financial director, how much scrutiny goes into these overages?
What do you mean? Well, these are payments for election workers, so.
I realize that, and, you know,
So have the,
do they budget time for election workers? And how do they run past?
She came in with estimates for her number of hours in election workers. I'm not really sure that would be more of a Miss Ashley question. I don't know, it could be a larger presidential turnout, it could be they put more machines, I don't really know.
here's the question I have. Sorry, is there anybody else? Go ahead, Ms.
Be
Boyd.
more of a question for Miss Ashley.
And this may be also, I don't believe she opened new precincts, correct? I think we have 29 and we had 29 before, but there's been a time we haven't. And did we increase early voting days? Because it felt like we did, but I'm not quite sure if we did. Is that what she's doing?
I believe this is, as I'm saying, I believe it would be more advantageous for Miss Ashley to come in.
I don't tend to make motions here, but I'm gonna motion that we do nothing with this until and unless we receive a presentation and a breakdown on the specific funds. That's my motion.
Second.
Do you have another one?
It's just, I mean, how long have they been waiting for this?
Has anybody been without, well, I don't know.
Right now, there was a payment for newspaper advertisement for a small vendor. She's made transfers and it's been paid.
Have we,
That one's been paid. That's
is there
not-
anything that,
Some,
that's what I was about to say.
Not mom and pop, but I mean.
Is there
it's a small
anybody who
business.
hasn't been paid?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I can check.
Then
tomorrow.
I'm good with it.
I
just
would-
wanna make sure that we don't have some.
There's nobody that we have not paid.
And I will check that tomorrow to make sure.
All right, so assuming that, my motion stands. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Uncollected material receivable, other than the $1 million from Gallatin.
These are due with the reappraisal costs.
Uh,
And your reappraisal is completed now, so they would be due.
So is there anything to be done with this?
It's really up to you guys what action you want to take, if it's legal
Oh,
action.
these are
or Send it over to legislative, maybe.
So this has happened. This has been going, so at the end of the day, this is a very similar problem to motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm gonna make a comment, I'll make a real motion here. At the end of the day, this is the same problem that we have with the courthouse. Like, we can argue about this and make dollars and digits on a piece of paper all day long, but we either have a stick to compel this or we don't, and if we do have a stick to compel this, then it doesn't come from this organization. It comes from legislative. So my motion is to kick this over to legislative in order to determine a method to proceed for each of these cities in order to collect. That's my motion.
Thing to note is Hendersonville and the other cities have paid it on this list.
What was that comment?
Hendersonville paid theirs, and so's the other cities not listed, so it's only the cities listed that hasn't paid.
Okay,
It's
so,
Gallatin, Portland, Goodlettsville.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, Mr. Becker was first, and then
Okay,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
so related to the comment, I recall having the same discussion, I don't know, last year or 2 years, I don't know, but regardless. But at that point in time, Hendersonville was listed on here.
Yeah,
They paid up.
And so Hendersonville was actually paid.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to them. Well, what are these other are these other cities? They're just still thinking they don't need to, or they just know that legally they don't have to?
It all resides down to somebody at MTAS made some comments about it and they're refusing to pay. That's the best
So what?
So,
But
MTAS
legally-
and CTAS have made different interpretations of how the cost breakdown of the assessment should be made. And I'll go as quickly as I can on this just for the record, but here's the difference. Our assessor's office and the county, our interpretation and CTAS's interpretation is that all activities within, and Mr. Mayor, you know this better than I do, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but all activities within an office can and should be counted as part of the reappraisal process, right? Because it's kind of a continuing process, and therefore the amount which is applied to the cities is a broad amount for the operations of that office. MTAS has said, no, what the cities owe is a much narrower amount, which is only for activities that can be directly attributed to a reappraisal. So strip out, certain overhead, strip out different things that we put into our calculation. There are different interpretations. CTAS says one thing, MTAS says another. These cities point up to MTAS. I think we're right, we think we're right, but that's the reason that these things cross wires.
I think MTS was saying additional costs, but that's not what the statute says.
So,
I think that was
So
the
how
only-
much, is it safe to assume that the amount listed here for Gallatin, which is, I'm ballparking, 2, 6, it's like 750,000 or something like that, that Hendersonville's at least that much?
it
Versus
wasn't,
more.
yeah. it
Hendersonville's was more, so Hendersonville's maybe in close to $1 million.
We
was
could go
like-
back and
It
look.
was like 1.2, I think. It was a,
We could go back and
We could go
look.
back.
I can't recall off the top of my head.
So roughly 1 million or 1.2 million?
I think that was the number. It might.
Is the difference between MTAS and CTAS, is it like?
Well, I mean,
they-
even
they
that.
owe some amount of money,
Even,
but they're arguing
yes,
what's the
they're arguing
calculation.
they're arguing about what they actually are obligated toward.
And I believe you've talked to the comptroller's office and they believe it's due.
Without getting into who told me what, I've sought higher input, higher powers. And one power said, well, if they don't pay you, sue them. And this came, I don't want to like throw some, but this, and then the other thing is last year the comptroller was working on this issue, and the legislators got lobbied to drop it for a bit. But to be clear, they only have to pay us at the end of the cycle.
Which
So
is
even though they've owed us for several years, that's okay, because they only have to pay us at the end of our cycle.
What's the cycle?
So now
5 years.
it just
Well, I
ended.
mean-
It's due now.
It's due now, it's finally
It's due
due.
now.
That was one of their arguments is the
So,
cycle
yeah,
had
it
ended.
wasn't due, that was one of their arguments.
But that
So it's
argument's
finally
gone
due.
now.
So have you sent them a bill?
We could resend it again.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. A
They
motion-
all
motion to
hold-
rescind the
Second.
bill. Motion a second.
And
All in
With
favor?
interest.
Aye.
Aye.
Just kidding.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any other activity that we want to do on this one? Okey dokey. Moving on to new business here. These are Board of Education. This is no new money here, I don't believe.
It's definitely not due money. Yeah, you can approve 1, 2, 3, 4.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on these? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Sheriff's Office, these are both grants. These are.
Wait a second.
Oh, Mr. Becker, did you want to waive the second on that one?
Yes,
You have to take it again.
yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Is the second with retaking the motion with waiving the second?
Second.
All right, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries unanimously. We can waive the second reading, okay. Both items 1A and B are passed through. I believe these are passed through 100%, correct? These-
Motion.
We have a motion, waive the second reading.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Two's passed through.
Okay, well, that was for both, was that for both A and B?
That was A and B.
That was
No,
both A?
number two's passed through also.
Okay, got it.
Motion.
Motion for the Health
Two.
Department, 250,000, this is
Waive.
pass through, motion and waive, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No, number three, you can tell what that is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Number
Oh, I
three,
know
there
what
was
this
about
is.
113,000 some odd dollars left from a sheriff's department project with ARPA. We have overfunding in the EMS because we're using local, so we're just asking to transfer it over there to utilize the ARPA
Motion.
funding.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Pending Gen Ops approval, okay, nonprofit donation for the Westmoreland Quarterback Club. I entertain a motion to discuss.
Motion.
Okay, motion to discuss, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 2 noes to discuss. Okay, I'm gonna get in queue on this one real quick, and I'm gonna have a motion for it. So I wasn't here when this was done before. I am not without,
Or A and B.
I am not without some sympathy here. But I also find that there was a comment made by Mr. Duffer earlier about folks making comments, not wanting to get down a slippery slope, and I actually think that has a lot of merit. Nevertheless, I'm not without sympathy on this one. I don't know. I don't know that I necessarily want to do this, but I also don't know that I want to totally kill it. So I'm going to move. Here's my line of thought. I know that if we do this for Westmoreland, that other quarterback clubs are going to have the exact same response, and maybe other organizations as well. I mean, you start to kind of open the floodgates. So what I'm going to suggest here, and I'm not saying I'm going to necessarily be for it at this point, but I'm going to move to consider this and any other takers who, as part of the budgeting process for 2025, 2026. So that's my motion, not to strike it down, but to consider it more broadly as part of budget. That's my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Question.
Go ahead.
I understand the slippery slope, but the slippery slope has twice fallen into the ocean. We have allocated first $15.8 million for every other high school except Westmoreland. And then we contributed another 5.4, and I understand that there's more yet that they're over budget again. I don't understand how $274,000 from the hospital fund, it's probably losing money every day because of inflation. I just don't understand why this is a big problem for this commission. We have given a ton of money. And as I understand it, Gallatin High School is gonna get their track, and Station Camp is gonna get their track, and you know, we've torn down bleachers, and everything that's happening with these other high schools is going to be happening. And I watched a video where the school superintendent was in favor of this, or at least the demeanor of his voice sounded like he was in favor of the commission doing this. He was saying he cannot do this, but the commission can because they're a nonprofit organization. I would appeal to this committee that, you know, Westmoreland is treated like the freckle-faced redhead child that nobody, you know, wants to claim they own, and they're not asking for that much. I just, if somebody could explain to me why all these other high schools get millions and millions of dollars in infrastructure that I made the argument way back when we voted on it, all of it could have been repaired. None of it had to be destroyed, and it could have been done for a fraction of the cost. But we went ahead as a committee, or a commission, and we voted to spend all that money. And now all of a sudden Westmoreland says, geez, can you help us with their debt? I mean, he's not demanding it, he's just asking. The school superintendent's in favor of it, apparently. I just don't understand why we're fighting this so hard.
I mean, I can give you my rationale.
Okay.
And it has to do with, now this is why, and what you just articulated is why I said I am not without sympathy and why I don't want to just kill it.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why I also have some hesitation is that at the end of the day, there are good arguments on all sides of the athletic facilities debate here, right? But at the end of the day, what happened there is that the schools said these facilities, which had been funded by private nonprofit organizations, we're just going to take that on. We are taking those on, and we are doing that. There was no transfer of debt obligation, nothing like that. This is a very different activity. So it's not an apples to, and I understand that rings hollow for like the people who are, you know, if I'm at one school versus another school and I'm like, hey, you know, they're getting stuff that looks like a Division IIA campus and we're not. I understand that my distinguishment here sounds pedantic, but at the end of the day, it's not pedantic because it really does open up potential for floodgates. So I'm not ready to do this yet, but I do want to consider, I am happy to consider it if everybody gets an equivalent shot. Mr. Becker.
Does anyone know, does each high school still get the $100,000 every year?
I think that, I don't know the amount, but I do believe that the high schools get a some amount.
Yeah, it was 200,000 originally, and they moved to 100,000. But if you're okay without objection, can I ask someone in the crowd? if they
Sure.
know?
Oh, well, yeah.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Mr. Becker.
The answer to that is no. That capital money is not presented to each high school as it once was. When Dale Phillips was here, money was allocated and presented to us. It was never $200,000 to the best of my memory. There was $100,000 and then it dropped to 50, and then this past year, it's dwindling to almost nothing. So no money. And I asked that question of Dale Phillips. I think I know where you're going with this. If additional capital is allocated, can we use that to cover our debt? He said no. Once I had a conversation with Mr. Hyde, I was asking these questions of the former director of schools. He said no, the school system cannot ask money from the county commission and then use that money to pay private debt, which is what ours has become because private citizens through the quarterback club have encumbered themselves with this debt.
Why did the quarterback club is a nonprofit?
501c3,
Okay.
correct.
Why did private citizens have to take out the loan? Why didn't
They are private citizens who are members of the quarterback club. The bank doesn't care what organization you're affiliated with. They just said, if you're gonna sign this for $30,000 or $35,000, there's gotta be sufficient collateral to cover that. And each person was responsible for their own collateral. As a school support organization in and of itself, they cannot represent Westmoreland High School, ask for a loan that the school system is encumbered with. They can't do that.
So I'm on the soccer nonprofit at my son's high school. And, we took out a loan for $120,000 a few years ago. So is it just, I just didn't realize that individuals on the board were signing it? I didn't realize that, I guess I just didn't realize how it worked, but.
If you signed for the $120,000, you were saying I'll be responsible for this in some capacity.
I mean, I don't, to my knowledge, no individual signed it. It was the nonprofit. I mean, I don't know. I'm speaking out,
I don't know who the bank was, I don't know the agreement you had. I don't know any of those things. At the time, again, in conversation with Dale Phillips, he said we can get to this point, we can use the money that we have appropriated, but once we go forward and finish this project with the quarterback club, who is a 501c3, and individuals securing that note, it becomes a private debt that the school system cannot cover and then must be covered either by the county commission because they can contribute to a 501c3 and pay that off, but the school system cannot.
I would like.
Any other questions for Mr. Duffy?
Not for me.
All right,
Thank you.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I think going along with your motion, I would like to know, how many nonprofits, how much money just in total throughout the county at these high schools? How much?
Yeah, how much is
That's
sitting
not
out there?
Is the 274, is that everything at Westmoreland, or there's their baseball or band, or, are there any more? Is 274 the total at Westmoreland? We got all these other high schools. I would just like to know that, and I think, I like your idea of let's see who else, just because what this request gets the first in line doesn't, I don't know if that means that I'm in favor of them, getting all the money, or not.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I would like
I'm
to
not
know
necessarily
that.
against it.
I know several years back, county commission did this exact same thing throughout the county and forgave loans throughout the county. think it was 2012.
Yeah, I mean, we
if
just have to
recall.
know what the amount is, right? Like if it's something we can bear or not, if it's the right thing to do. But I'd just like to look at it comprehend. Anything else on that
No,
one?
I just,
State road
until we
up
have all that other data,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not in favor of approving
I'll get
this.
you. I've got Miss Boyd, and then I'll get you. Miss Boyd.
So that's exactly where I was thinking. There's a gentleman in my district, and he explained to me how he and his group had paid for the weight equipment at Station Camp and had been paying it off for over a decade and still had many years remaining. So along that same line is how many people are in this position and how do we find out? Do we run an ad in the paper? Or, where are we gonna
Well,
find out? And are
be
we
careful
only,
what you wish for.
let's just look at it. Are we only saying high school? What about middle school soccer? I got somebody over in White House that's calling me about their kids' middle school soccer team, and they wanna know how to get in on this. And I'm like, let me get back to you. So, and there is no fire in the house, so this isn't something we have to make a decision on. I want to hear a lot more information,
I can speak to
whether a
soccer.
decision has to be made or not, but parameters around it, how big will it grow? And then what are we looking at in the budget this year?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, we need to
I'll
look
get-
on the other side.
Just because he was waiting, I'm going to get him. Then I'm going to pull us under rules, and then I'll get you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to remind everybody about Liberty Creek. So a lot of these schools that have built these structures like field houses and extra facilities have done so over time, over the years with these types of projects. Liberty Creek got everything up front. So there's obviously a new way of doing high schools that everybody else needs to be made whole. To your point, some of these other schools probably will come forward and want to be brought up to the same standards. They've got a lot of projects going on right now to get to those standards. They're headed that way. But we've got a hospital fund that is being asked for this amount of money. That fund is like over $1 million. Some of these other projects, other debts could be done out of the same hospital fund, and maybe they could be done in the budget. But right now we have a request.
I got it.
For one.
And I know, Mr. Mansfield, you're here. I just want to make one comment here that, like, if we're here to talk about bringing everybody up to the standard of Liberty Creek, you're talking about tens and maybe hundreds of millions of dollars.
So I'm saying pay for what they got.
Mr. Mansfield, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, that is what the director has already stated publicly, that he's going to bring all the other schools up to that standard, and it's going to be a tax increase. It's coming. So I just want to remind most of you at this table, on this commission, that voted for $15.8 million for the quarterback clubs at Beach, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Station Camp, Portland, to get that money because they didn't want to pay for their athletic facilities anymore. That include press boxes, bleachers, include bathrooms, training rooms, athletic facilities, field houses, tracks, press boxes for tracks, 1,000-foot stadium, site work, future site work for future tracks. Tomorrow night, the school board is approving almost $500,000 to build an indoor baseball facility for Hendersonville High School. They're doing that tomorrow night, $480,000. In November, it was $440. Now it's $480. Probably be $500,000. The reason these you're talking about a slippery slope. Commissioner Klein alluded to it. You've already hit that slope with your bottom and just gone straight down into Dante's Inferno with it. Because when you approve this money, you've already approved it. Those quarterback clubs aren't having to come back and ask for money because we've already given them money. It's almost $26 million now between what the school board's appropriated and what this county commission appropriated and what this county commission has given to the quarterback clubs, the booster clubs. They're not having to ask for money. Hendersonville's, they're not raising money for their baseball facility because the school's going to give them $500,000 because the county commission gave them $5.4 million. So I just find it I'm astounded with the rationale. I don't think it's rational at all. I think it's double-minded. I think it's hypocritical to say that all these clubs are going to come ask for money. All these clubs in October 2023, I set up here, hundreds of kids demanding they deserve this. Demanding they deserve this. Quarterback club, presidents, boosters, demanding their kids deserve this. It's exactly what happened. 'Cause exactly what happened. And we approved it. You didn't. I did. 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 I did I do. I didn't approve the 5.4 million. I made my case clear on that. I won't approve any more. But this is making somebody whole who's not even asked it. They asked for this money. You've been asking for 5 years, my understanding. I went to a football game on November the 8th, a playoff game. I said, man, your bleachers are nice. How'd you guys do this? I said, well, but you mentioned it. County Commission gave us $500,000 10 years or so ago. That $500,000, they took it and built their bleachers themselves and did the community built it themselves, and they took another they took that $500,000 to $250,000, built their own bleachers. $250,000, they built a new it was concession stands, bathroom, visitor locker room, and everything else. But their other facility for their football team was falling down and uninhabitable. So they took $200,000 of capital money. They were given $50,000 one year, $100,000 one year, $30,000, $25,000 one year. They were given Westmoreland. They used it for their lighting, for their auditorium. And they were able to save $200,000 of capital. $400,000 they did raise from the community, and $300,000 they financed. They're making interest payments are super high right now. So the point is, they haven't asked for anything. They got nothing. They're not asking for anything. Just Mr. Dufford asked Dale Phillips at one point, said, well, we'll see about it. He asked Mr. Langford at one point when he was chairman of this commission. So, well, maybe the commission can help you out. Nothing ever happened. And so he had asked Dale Phillips again and said, well, only the commission can do this. And I was asking these questions. He reminded me of what the county commission did do. They gave $500,000, and that's how they got very nice stuff. They're not asking for bleachers. They're not asking for baseball stadiums. They're not asking for anything else. When you talk about quarterback clubs coming in, the quarterback clubs already did come in, and they've gotten almost $26 million. All the other schools but Westmoreland. It's just a simple question. I mean, it's just ridiculous to me, but you know, Beach is at $9.1 million. Press box, concessions, bathrooms, training rooms, locker rooms, offices. HHS is at $8.4 million plus the $500,000 they're going to be asking for tomorrow night. So we're at 8.9 for offices, locker rooms, home and visitor, training rooms, bathrooms, concessions. Well, guess who built all that crap before? Quarterback clubs, booster clubs. County taxpayers didn't do it, but we're doing it now. Portland High School, $2.6 million. Station Camp, $1 million. Estimate for just their track. And a new football field irrigation system they're going to bid on in January 2025 this month. Gallatin track, $2.3 million. Press box, 1,000 seats track stadium. Normally, those booster clubs, quarterbacks clubs are being paid for. The county's paying for it now. Merrill High Magnet School, $500,000 for tennis court estimates. So, I just, the argument's not there. If you're going to say, I'm going to improve $15.8 million and $5.4 million because the quarterback clubs are demanding it. And now the quarterback clubs don't have to pay anything. They get all new crowd. It's all new. They're not having to take out any more loans. They're not doing any debt. It's just all done. We just wiped away their debt. We wiped away because we're giving them new facilities. They're just asking for $274,000. I asked for it to come out to Comer Barn. These previous commissions were willing to give $250,000 to an old dilapidated horse barn we didn't even own. The school board is wanting to take $3.5 million of COVID money to fix it up for kids, supposedly.
We got the point.
Mr.
We got the
Chairman,
point.
can
So-
We got the point. All right. Anything else?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was in the queue.
Oh, you're in the queue. Go ahead.
Question.
All right. Question to be called. All right. We're back into order. All right.
I just got a
Question.
point of information, or I have a.
Question's been called.
comment.
Is there a second for that? Is there a second? All right. Motion and a second. All in favor, call the question?
Aye.
No.
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 All right. There we go.
Okay.
Go. And I bet this is the last
I
comment.
just wanted to comment that quarterback clubs throughout the county are not, they still have debt. We didn't pay off their debt.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's
That was my,
crystal
yes,
clear.
I know, and that was my comment earlier.
Well, I mean, we didn't pay off their debt.
I know that we
I know
did.
some people are getting emotional about this, but like, they all still have debt, good or bad, whatever.
Right,
You
and-
can argue if they should or not, but this didn't erase, this
That's
15.4 or 26
Yes,
million, whatever.
that's exactly
It did
right.
not erase any of their debt.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly why I made the
So-
comments I made. Any
So,
other?
I just want to make sure that, and it's not only quarterback club, it's there's football is one
Band
sport.
clubs, I mean,
There's
there's, I mean,
there's
we get
theater,
it, we
there's
get it.
Middle school.
We get it.
That middle school saga, I'd love talking about
All
that.
right,
'cause that's
we have
garbage.
made
I know.
lots of
But
points on all
I'm the
directions here.
commissioner of this.
I have a motion on the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
however, it does erase future debt, and that's important.
But that's a
On these
different,
items, correct.
Yeah, but that's a different thing.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. Your future debt versus,
different.
I get the point, but one is, hey, I'm gonna pay off your previous debts. The other is, hey, I'm building nice stuff so you don't have to ask anything more. If you wanna make folks whole, then what, and I'm not asking for this, right? Like, I'm in the business of trying to moderate. But if you wanna make folks whole, then what would happen is that all of the different, Westmoreland or others would come to the schools director and say, hey, I want these facilities to be up to par with everybody else. That's an apples to apples comparison. Go ahead. Anything else on this?
Yeah, do we know, are there any other athletic or extracurricular activities at Westmoreland that have any debt?
I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea.
I can make an assumption that there's probably some debt
Probably.
somewhere.
Probably.
But it's not our decision to figure out which piece of the Westmoreland debt to give this money to.
So my motion still stands that we don't kill this, but it stays for consideration and be considered as part of next year's budget.
I've already seconded that.
We have motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
No.
One no. Okay. So motion carries. All right. Now, planning and engineering, $10,000 for unassigned fund balance for debris. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't do this in the commission.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any other discussion on this one?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the 10,000, what will it go to?
This was
It's not
for,
the money, I just wanna know what we're doing.
it's for debris removal around where the,
Where they took down that shed?
not the shed, it was the,
It's flood debris.
from the, I'm drawing a blank now.
It's more than that, though. I know what you're gonna say, but the Draper House and the
And
post.
I don't want a detail, just real, like,
Well,
is it
it's-
construction material or is it trees?
It's
Both.
long-term organic material that's
Collection.
built up
Organic.
along the creek
Okay,
that has literally blocked off half of the full footprint of the creek, causing eddies and a lot of flooding that happens. And through a lot of effort by Commissioner Jones and our planning and engineering department, we were able to get TDOT to do apparently the miraculous in cleaning up the south side. They refused to clean up the north side. And so I did get a contractor out there. I said, can we do this for 10? And he said, yes, I believe I can do it for
So
less.
so it was just construction material or
It's not
trees,
only,
that's all.
that's what I'm saying.
It's collection that has accumulated from flooding month over month.
And I
over
just
month.
want us to be a good neighbor.
Any other, did you have a question on this, Mr. Becker?
Yeah, didn't we talk about this?
This went to the full commission.
And got.
It got voted down. It was but I voted for it. I'm gonna vote to send it back.
What's different about it?
Nothing's different about it.
It was a misinterpretation of the, what is that resolution? It's a
Draper House.
Yeah, there was a question about whether we were picking up debris from the Draper House, and that is not exactly the case. Any other discussion on this one? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, 2 noes. That one passes. All right, goes
It
back.
will need a second reading.
All right, so we'll have to read it.
It'll be under old business.
It'll be under business, and we'll get a second reading next time. All right. Transfer between major health categories. Health Department, 6,727 for a contract with the state for the Portland Clinic HVAC equipment.
It's basically, they send money to the state, they're asking to keep the money in the county to fix the HVAC systems, it's a transfer.
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait,
Question.
we had a question.
Is the machine dead? Is that what this 6,700 is for? Is the machine needing to be replaced?
Mr. Loin? No.
We have Hal back there, I'm not sure if it's
On
replaced.
we-
page
we-
361,
dead.
it says replacement.
It says replace, and we took a vote.
Oh.
All in favor, we already took a vote, it passed. Does this need a second reading?
No, because it's just a transfer.
All right, got it.
Commissioner Klein, on page 361, it says replacement on there.
Replacement, yeah.
All right, other items, Health Department, discussion of grant from Tennessee Department of Safety to purchase, does this need to happen tonight?
Well, we don't have the amount tonight, but I would ask that you do the first reading tonight and have the second reading, because I think Hal's gonna have the money, or he's gonna know
How
how
are
much
we
money
gonna
it is
take,
next
do you have
month.
an estimate of like,
He don't have the amount.
how can we take a vote on it?
We'll vote on it, or just put it under old business until. he
Yeah,
gets
I
the
would just say,
amount.
let's just leave this one without.
And he's here, he might be able to tell us when the amount is, if you want to suspend the rules.
Was there, I mean, just in the interest of brevity here, is there anything that we can really do with this tonight?
We don't know the amount.
I would, and I'm happy to speak with you afterwards. I don't know that there's anything that's gonna break unless somebody
Yeah,
wants
I
to make a
just want to
motion.
know more about it. I don't.
It's a
It's a
resolution
grant.
on an estimate if you
Yeah.
do it this way.
Right, that's
All
what
right.
I'm saying, he needs to go back under old business.
Then let's just leave it, without objection. UKG telestaff renewal, 382.
That one is because it's a payment for next year to move them into the cloud. They're telling IT that we have to pay the money up front for next year. And since it's an expenditure for next year, only county commission could approve it
How-
as a future
how
appropriate.
much is this
It's
one?
like 16 or 1900 bucks. I don't know. It's a small
Yeah,
payment,
this
but
one-
we're still
Yeah, this one's from,
making sure we're
Mr.
following all the
Tuttle.
rules. It is
1823.
Yeah,
Motion
yeah.
to approve.
Motion to approve, second, all in favor?
Aye.
18.
Any opposed? Motion carries
Wait,
unanimously.
second.
Okay, so this is the last big one we have to deal with.
Did that need a
Motion
second?
approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
need a
This is the
second?
500, this has already been, so,
No, it's not
I want to hear,
Can you explain?
I'm gonna approve this, but there were some comments earlier from from citizens, and they're not without merit here. I've spoken with Mr. Ellis about this, but,
Jimmy talk about it.
yeah, please give us a rundown here.
Talking to Toby, Judy, because she doesn't do POs for years, have let line item balances go over. He has his highway budget where he has state aid asphalt and he has regular asphalt. At regular asphalt, he has about $38,000. He continued working when he ran out of money with, the understanding was he was gonna drain all of his other line items, if need be, like Judy's always had, and move it up to do the asphalt, the $500,000 he spent. Well, what makes more sense, if you remember the letter from the state, they're already telling you your highway fund is below 2 months balance. So what would make more sense is to actually, and financial management's already approved to pay it to the PO that was issued after the fact, if budget's okay, is to go ahead and let us pay it toward the $3 million. That'll keep from draining his fund. Either way, it's come from tax
So
dollars and being paid.
I'm good with this. I just have one question of how, is there anything on it's sitting in front of us that we
Tec-
expect for this to happen again, because I don't want it to happen again.
Technically, you should have an appropriations where your spending says you can't go over. Mr. Harden, because there's not POs, has done it for years. Toby's doing the same thing.
How,
He's gonna do, and they've done it, if you noticed, every year. They come in like once or twice a year and they make their balances basically balance. Toby and me were talking, it probably makes more sense if you guys don't object, because my discussion, number one, we need to be transparent to it. Number two, I don't believe, a lot of the commissioners understood that existing costs may get posted toward the $3 million, so we want to make sure everybody's aware of that. But
yes.
when they approved his budget, it does resolve the budget overage, but it was an expenditure before this particular appropriation, but it makes more sense to be posted here. But this is a long-standing practice that just has been going on with the highway department since way before my time.
All right,
It blows my mind.
go ahead. Any other
Well, they
discussion
don't
on
do
this?
POs, so there's no
Miss
controls.
Miss
on it.
Boyd, go ahead.
Just two quick details on that. So
Be fair
it's
to
a
Toby.
long-standing process that's been going on. Are we changing that going forward, or are we just gonna keep doing that?
Well, the thing is, we pay the bills when they get here. If there's not a budget, we can refuse to pay the bills. This is one where we could hold it, but he's got $3 million over here. Financial management said they're okay with it. My only thing is right now is we just want to be transparent with what happened. Toby was fine with that, too, telling everybody what happened. His plans was, when he talked to me, when the bills came down, to do like they've always had. If the $3 million didn't get approved, he's gonna take it out of all his line items.
I mean, the reason I'm good with this is this, the entire purpose behind the 19 million, and then of that 19 million, the 3 million was to do this kind of thing, and it bothered me that we didn't have that appropriated in time. So I'm fine with this,
Yeah.
but it's still not the right thing.
His only
that's
other
where I'm still on.
alternative,
Yeah.
What he said,
should we
other
do
than
to clean this
his
up?
only
Or
other
Make
al-
it easy for Toby.
the only
and
other
make it clean.
alternative he really had was to stop work.
Yeah.
If he,
As
and
I say, from
he
my
didn't believe he,
conversation with him, he was in the middle of road projects, so we were also hitting winter
Yeah.
time, we were trying to get.
and he's gonna stop
everything-
work.
Yeah, I mean, you
And-
don't wanna do that.
So he didn't have a
That-
lot of choices.
It sounds good, but how do we clean it up so it's
Well, right now,
we're not doing this.
in your highway fund, or in the capital projects is where he's spending all of his asphalt right now, so he's getting.
Yeah, I
POs there.
mean, what we should do is.
We'll
approve it.
monitor against his POs, and Toby's monitoring against his total budget. He was kind of, for a better word, hoping to get the $3 million, I think, is part of it.
Yeah,
too.
I mean.
And he wanted to continue work, so I don't
he's
think
trying
he
to
was
do
doing
the right
anything.
thing here, in the
Yeah, I
conversation with
think this
David.
is the right thing, but how, it just sounds like we're just gonna continue.
Well, I mean, I mean, here's what happened.
We
We
need to
didn't
put more
approve
money
the
in?
3 million, no, we don't
Yeah.
need, we already have
Well,
this
you already
assigned.
handled that, but I'll just talk to Toby that there's a discussion that probably Judy did that for years, Miss Harden, and I even told her that wasn't the best practice, but nobody ever really wanted to stop. At this point, it sounds like you guys want him to transfer any funds and keep his items all balanced, even if he don't do POs.
Is that
Instead of doing
something we
that,
need to
I'll just talk.
address?
I'll just talk to him tomorrow about it or next week when I see him.
And then we need to
And then my
approve.
second question is how is our highway fund balance? You did mention that the state was talking about it, so how is that?
Right now, we're meeting revenue projections. They look good, except the one, if you looked on the sheet, was short. We only got 1/4, but his gas tax looks good. We're monitoring his revenues. As I'm saying, other than this, which he paid out of the other funds, he's pretty much within budget. So kind of like the same thing last year, we're hoping he picks up extra funds. But it's the same thing that was pointed out back at the last budget, when you were making your budget at the workshops. The best practice would be anytime you finish his budget for him to have about 2 months of expenditures at least in there.
So do we have 2 months right now?
You would right now, but he doesn't for the projected for the end of the year. In other words, he's not, we watch his cash.
We're
and we
over
monitor.
burning it, but we're
I
not
know,
gonna.
that's what I'm thinking we are.
But we did, that's why we set aside this in capital. We knew that would happen.
Now, the $3 million is gonna come about what would be more helpful if it came at the first of the year and he spent more than 3 and less out of his highway may help him out
Any,
as possible.
any other, Ms. Boyd?
No, thank you
All
for
right,
that clarification.
all right, all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Any opposed?
And is
All right,
this for
motion carries.
informational, because he's already got a budget?
Okay.
There's no real approval, it's just information. but-
This last one? Well,
It's not proper.
all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion to adjourn.
That's
All right, all in favor? Aye. We're
I
adjourned.
think it needs to be.
Mine, there's more information on this.
It needs to be.